ANZAC, the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps. Hear the term, and you might think of the men in the trenches, or the rocky landscape of Gallipoli, or you might think of the men on the Western Front, of those who served in other conflicts, or even our modern-day ANZACs. For students at Blackall State School, our understanding of them also embraces women. In particular, one woman, Sister Greta Norman Towner, the country nurse who served in the Great War. This grainy image and a few words on her service started the process of Blackall State School students discovering Greta Norman Towner. How did students at Blackall State School come to know about Greta Towner? What started the research on her life?
Well, when I was researching Edgar Thomas Towner for the Premier's Anzac Prize, within the various articles and information that we found, I noticed that he had a sister, Greta Norman Towner, that served as a nurse at Lemnos Island at Gallipoli in World War I, and I found that interesting, and we just really wanted to know more about it, not just Edgar himself, but also his siblings who served in World War I.
Well, junior secondary students like me started researching her by looking at her war records and newspaper references, and also by the help by Miss Faisal and Miss Campbell from the Blackall Historical Society. So what did we find out? Greta Norman Towner was born in 1891 on a property outside of Blackall called Glencoe. Seen here with some of the Towner family that grew into 6 girls and 4 boys. She was educated at Blackall State School and in Rockhampton. The school photo shows a different era, and yet the students found something in common with Greta Towner more than 100 years on.
The letter that we read that Greta wrote to the newspaper when she was at Blackall State School tells us about when she used to go riding with her sister to visit wallaby traps and milking cows at Glencoe.
That was really interesting to read because 100 years on, we are still riding our horses around Blackall, though not to wallaby traps. She just went to school just like us, but then she went to war. That's a quite bit different.
Greta Towner was once a real person, not just a name on our honour roll. She once lived at Blackall and even went to our school. Her life story is quite inspiring as after she went to war, she studied at university.
Greta Norman Towner did indeed go to war. After completing her education in Rockhampton, she qualified as a nurse at the Rockhampton Children's Hospital in 1914. And in July 1915, she enlisted with the Australian Army Nursing Service. Arriving in Egypt in September 1915, she was assigned to the 1st Australian General Hospital, and then to the Greek island Lemnos with the 2nd Australian Stationary Hospital. There she nursed under challenging conditions, no running water or sewage, storms and freezing conditions. Greta was one of the 133 Australian nurses on the island that had to deal with collapsing tents, frostbite, lack of food and lack of proper medical equipment, whilst caring for the sick and injured Anzacs from Gallipoli.
In August 2015, I was given the opportunity to see Greta Towner's uniform. This was interesting because I'd always imagined Anzac as a male-oriented word, so I never imagined women in uniform, and this was very interesting to me. The experience seeing the uniform was really quite surreal, but also very interesting because this uniform was 100 years old, and it not only, but the appearance of the uniform wasn't that mattered. It was the fact that what it represented, an Anzac, a woman, went to Gallipoli and served there, and that was quite special.
Greta Towner leaves Lemnos Island in January 1916 to nurse on hospital ships and then serve at the 2nd Auxiliary Hospital at Southall in England. This hospital specialised in amputations and the development of prosthetic limbs. She is then transferred to the town of Roux in France. There she dealt with the icy European winter, with soldiers with gunshot wounds, frostbite, trench foot, gassings and diseases. Men from some of the bloodiest battles, such as Ypres, Molencourt, Mont Saint-Quentin and Menin Road. On September the 6th, 1918, her brother, Lieutenant Edgar Towner, arrived at the 2nd Red Cross Hospital in Roux, injured from the Battle of Mont Saint-Quentin. He is later awarded the Victoria Cross for his actions. He had earlier been awarded the Military Cross for his actions at Molencourt. Greta Towner took leave just 2 days after her brother arrived in the hospital town. Did the brother and sister get to meet up? Sister Towner travels to Ireland, the birth country of her mother, and is photographed horse riding like she did as a child. She is with Sister Effie Looker from Tasmania, where many of Greta's family were from. One can only wonder if the two nurses had common ties and what they would talk about on the day of riding, far away from the challenges of nursing in war hospitals.
After 2 hospitalizations with influenza, Sister Greta Towner finished her war service in July 1919 and returned home to her town of Blackall. She was offered positions at the Blackall and Rockhampton hospitals, but elects instead to travel to Sydney, where she takes on the study of pharmacy at the University of Sydney in 1920, a remarkable feat for a woman at that time. After a year of pharmaceutical study, she makes this amazing decision to move to America, where she works at veteran hospitals for the rest of her life and gets married to Harry Maloney.
Greta Towner married Harry Maloney in 1945. She was 55 years old. Harry worked at the University of Stanford in America. In 1946, the newlyweds visited Australia, and much was written in the newspapers of their visit to Western Queensland, Sydney and Brisbane. Greta and Harry returned to America. In 1961, Greta Towner Maloney passes away. 6 years later, so does her husband, Harry Maloney. The two share a headstone in the San Francisco National Cemetery. Sister Greta Norman Towner was a country girl who grew to be a nurse and who went to war. She lived a full life. She was an extraordinary woman. We will remember her, lest we forget.